Mm.
So we're going to talk about in a few minutes that we have maybe one of the most mysterious aspects, well, not the most mysterious, but one very enigmatic aspect of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Something we've alluded to a couple of times in the past few days, and there's this question of, are these really days of Simcha or not? We find very, very conflicting sources throughout, going all the way back to the Tanakh, going through the Rishonim, and this question has many, many ramifications in Halakha L'Maaseh as well, in terms of whether these are days of Simcha, whether these are days of happiness, of joy, element of that, or are they not? And we really find opposing, conflicting, contradictory messages. Let's try and work through it and see if we can figure out some answers. So the Tur, at the beginning of Hilchot Rosh Hashanah, brings a very interesting midrash. Tur brings the following. He says, brings a midrash based on the pasuk. It says, "Ki mi goy gadol," who is this great nation? Rabbi Kenigsberg and Rabbi Yoshua אומרים, "Ezo uma ke'uma zo, sheyodat ofya shel Elohim." There is no other nation like this nation, like the Jewish people, who knows the nature of its God. What does that mean? Perush, minhagav v'dinav. It's practices, it's judgments. We get inside God's mind, so to speak. How so? He says, "Minago shel olam, adam sheyesh lo din lovesh shcholim u'mitotef shcholim." It was the custom in those days. Somebody is going into a judgment, somebody's going into a court case, and he's very scared. We spoke about this on Motzei Shabbat. Full of fear, full of trepidation. Dresses, the custom was to dress in black, to cover up in black. Megadel zkano ve'en chotech tziponav. He would signs of mourning. Would not have a haircut. Would not cut one's nails. Would let what. Lefi she'eno yodeh איך יצא דינו. Because the person is full of fear. The person doesn't know what's going to be the outcome of the judgment. Are they going to have life or death? Aval Yisrael einan ken. Jewish people are not so. When we go into the judgment of Rosh Hashanah, we act very differently. Lovshin levanim, mitatfin levanim. We dress in white. Megalchin zkanam, mitchin tziponehem, have a haircut, shave one's beard, cut their nails. Ve'ochlin ve'shotin u'smechin b'Rosh Hashanah. We eat and drink and are merry. Ochlin ve'shotin ve'smechin. Why? Concludes the Torah, concludes the Midrash. Because they know that Hashem will perform a miracle for them. Probably the strangest line in this whole midrash. Very interesting. I thought that we were taught, we don't rely on miracles. Over here, we are certain. It's very interesting. It uses of all the words that it could be. It could have said, right, they know that they will come out victorious. They know they will emerge righteous. They'll have a miracle done for them. Okay. But that is the Torah, and that's what he says, and that is the basis for a number of halachot that we have brought in the Shulchan Aruch as well. He says, "Mechapsin u'mistaplin be'erev Rosh Hashanah." Halakha in the Shulchan Aruch, we wash our clothes, we have haircuts, shave, etc. And these are just as we would on any other festival. There's a certain festive nature to already before Rosh Hashanah begins, and that's what seems to come out from the Torah. Another very interesting midrash that goes in the same direction. This time begins with Rosh Hashanah and goes all the way to Sukkot. This is the midrash is found in the Yalkut Shimoni and on Tehillim. It says like this. It says, "B'Rosh Hashanah kol be'olam ovrin afanav kivnei maror." No, on Rosh Hashanah, the Mishnah, each individual, and of course this is not just talking about the Jewish people. This is talking about all of mankind. Every single person, every individual passes one by one kivnei maror. Three interpretations in the Gemara what Bnei Maron means. We won't talk about it now, but each one means as completely individual. Af Yisrael din afanav badin. So the Jewish people are part of that. They are standing. They are coming in judgment. Ve'umot ha'olam omrim anu zachinu v'nitzachnu badin. And the nations of the world come along and they say, "No, it's us. We are the ones that are victorious." We find it's not by coincidence. The Atzeret HaUm, UN General Assembly, takes place every year around these days. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, all the nations of the world come together. Everybody argues who's it going to be. But he says, says the Midrash, we don't know Was it the Jewish people? Was it Ummot HaOlam? Which nation is going to be on top, so to speak? Who emerges victorious? We don't have a clue. Im Israel, im Ummot HaOlam. Aval Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah passes. We still don't know. V'kol Yisrael ba'im b'yom HaKippurim u'mit'anim. We come to Yom Kippur. We still don't know. We come and we fast. U'mitatfin levanin. And again, the same expression. We're dressed in white on Yom Kippur. Avar Yom Kippur. Ve'en adam yodea. Laminim chalu avonotav. Li'Yisrael im lovdei elilim. Again, very strange and very interesting comparison that the Midrash uses. It says Yom Kippur comes around, and we don't know whose sins were forgiven on Yom Kippur. Is it the Jewish people? Is it the nations of the world? Again, I knew Rosh Hashanah was a universal. No, Yom Kippur had this universal element to it as well. I also didn't know that it's dependent. Why does it have to be one or the other? What difference does it make? But in any event, the Midrash seems to extend that analogy. And then it says, so we still don't know who came out on top. We get to the first day of Chag, the first day of Sukkot, and Am Yisrael come out. Haktanim v'gdolim v'lulavehen b'yedeihem. Right, the children, the adults, everybody, they come out with their lulav. Won't have it this year because the first day is Shabbat, so we won't have the lulav. I don't know if it's ominous sign or not, but that's what the Midrash says. Miyad hakol yodin shenitzchu Yisrael badin, and then now everybody knows who emerged victorious. It was Bnei Yisrael. V'nimchalu avonotehem, and their sins have been forgiven, have been erased. This imagery here of the lulav holding up like a sword of victory that we're walking around with. Okay, before Rosh Hashanah comes, we know we're going to walk out with the lulav. What's happened? What's the chiddush? But in any event, the point is that this midrash again follows on the theme of the previous one. This idea of there being a certain celebration. Okay, here it's not immediately apparent on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Maybe that in itself is the message the Midrash is trying to express. It's saying that at the end of the day, it comes out positive. At the end of the day, we know Bnei Israel come out on top. But from Rosh Hashanah, we don't know. Yom Kippur, we don't know. There's still a certain sense of fear, a certain sense of trepidation. But there is an element, again, this element of simcha, of joy, of confidence, which comes through. And based on these sources and others, we'll see, there seems to be an idea of these being a days of simcha. The Mishnah at the end of Masechet Ta'anit talks about lo yamim tovim nisag mo tu b'av v'yom kippurim, and it's one of the happiest days of the year. On the other hand, we have many sources we know, and I'm sure familiar with many of these as well, that indicate the complete opposite. That Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are not days of simcha, are not days of happiness. Even for a question as mundane as what greeting do you give? Last year we spoke about what is the greeting for Rosh Hashanah. Can you say Chag Sameach? Is that appropriate? Somebody came up to me and said, "What's the shayla?" You just say Good Yom Tov. Okay, but or we say Shana Tova, whatever. But it's a real question. It's asked in halacha. Can you say Chag Sameach? Is that appropriate? They say that Rav Kook would wish people on Rosh Hashanah, he would say Chag Mevorach. He didn't want to say Chag Sameach. It actually in our tefillah, there's a discussion that comes up in the Shulchan Aruch as well as to whether we can say, and we don't say, right? Muadim lesimcha, Chagim muzmanim sason, as part of the words of the tefillot, which we say on the Regalim, because it's not a day of simcha. Furthermore, the Rambam writes explicitly, he writes this in Mishneh Torah, when he's talking about in Nechot Megillah, talking about the laws of when we say halal and which days. And the Rambam tells us, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim, and Bayim halal. There is no halal on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Shehen Yemei Tshuva v'yira v'fachat. These are days of tshuva, these are days of fear, these are days of awe, yamim noraim, as we call them. V'lo yemei simcha yetira. These are not days of simcha. These are not days of excessive happiness. And of course, the Rambam there is basing himself on the Gemara, which we mentioned on Sunday. The Gemara that says that the Malachai Sharet say, Ribono Shel Olam, why are Am Yisrael not saying halal? Why are they not saying shira before you? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, the Melech is Yoshev al Kisei Din. The king is sitting on the throne of judgment. How can you say halal? By the way, the Tzitz Eliezer has a very, very interesting interpretation on this. He says, he looks at this, there are two paragraphs which we say after Tkiyat Shofar. There's Hayom Harat Olam and Areshet Sifatein. Right? So Tzitz Eliezer explains, says, what are these all about? And he says that essentially one of the meanings when we blow the shofar many different meanings, different allusions to it. One of them is that just when there is a coronation of the king, you blow trumpets. You blow that comes along to accompany the coronation of the king. So too, that is what the shofar, that is hamlachat. That is the coronation. So when there is so he says it should have been the part of the Shiur, we sing Hallel, but we don't. Why? Because Amelech Shebach Kisei Din. It's also the coronation, but it's also the day of judgment. So therefore, when we say Hayom Harat Olam, says that Tzitz Eliezer, it's almost like an apology. It says Hayom Harat Olam. Today is the day the world was created. Whatever that means, Nisan, Tishrei, etc. Right? But Hayom Yamid B'Mishpat Kol Yitzorei Olamim. Today is the day on which this judgment takes place, and the king is sitting on the throne of judgment. And therefore, since the king is sitting on the throne of judgment, we aren't able to complete that song, as it were, that we would have together with the trumpets, with the shofar, with everything. That's sort of the apology. And then we can say, Areshet Sfatenu. So therefore, we have blown the shofar, but only the shofar and not the shira. And therefore, please accept it. So it's almost all ties in together. So these are some of the sources that we can see. On the one hand, very, very much, the Torah told us this is a miracle. The Midrash says it's a sign of victory, right? We are uchulim v'shotim v'smechim. That's the key word, yasimcha. The Torah said explicitly, we are happy on Rosh Hashanah. And then we say, the Gemara says, no, we're not happy. We can't say Hallel, we can't say Shiur, it's Kisei Din, it's Yira, Pachad, etc. There are a number of other expressions of this in Halakha, this contradiction. The truth is, it goes all the way back to Sefer Ezra v'Nehemiah. That in Sefer Ezra v'Nehemiah, there's a scene there where they begin to read from the Sefer Torah. They read, this takes place on the day of Rosh Hashanah. The passages are read from the Torah, and the whole nation begins crying. They're crying because they've never heard of this before, and they don't know, and the ways that they've sinned, and they want to come back and to keep the ways of the Torah and to be Chozer b'Teshuvah, right? Nehemiah says to them, he says, "Vayom elayim lechu ichlu mashmanim ushtu mamtakim." Go eat, go drink, go be merry. V'shochu manot le'nachon lo, and send gifts to one another. Ki kadosh hayom la'Adoneinu. Those words was copied into our tefillah. V'al tayatzvu, don't be sad. Ki chedvat Hashem ima'uschem, because the joy of Hashem is in your strength. In other words, today is not the day to be sad. Today is the day to be happy. This is Rosh Hashanah. This is a happy occasion. There's even a machloket in Halakha whether you're allowed to cry on Rosh Hashanah. The Vilna Gaon says it's wrong and it's forbidden for a person to arouse themselves to cry during the tefillah of Rosh Hashanah. The Arizal says a person comes to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and doesn't cry. What's wrong with you? How can that be? That's a person who doesn't have a nefesh shalem. And therefore we see, we have both sides. We have strong precedent for both of these. I'll leave you for now with the contradiction, and tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll try and solve. Rabbi Hanania ben Akasha, אומר, "Tzakal Baruch Hu lezakot et Yisrael, לפני כל הרם תורה מצוות, שנאמר חפץ למען צדקו, יגדל תורה ויהדות."